In this video, I hope to look at how using a range of blended learning tools can help to improve the way in which we as teachers use questioning in the classroom. I will try and do this through demonstrating practical elements of blended learning tools and how these can be used to effectively ask questions. These are some of the tools that I will use within my video. Some of you may well be familiar with them. I use some of these or all of these within my lessons. I want to demonstrate how these tools can be used to effectively question students in the classroom. This video will focus on the practical elements of using Rosenshine's principles in the classroom. The main statement my video will focus on is asking a large number of questions and check the responses of all students. As we know from Rosenshine's work, that questions help students practice new information and connect new material to their prior learning. So for the purpose of this video, I want to focus on how we can ask a large number of questions and then move on to check the responses of all our students. Always keeping in mind Rosenshine's main statement as I go through this video. For my first example, I'm going to show you how I use a tool like Plickers in my classroom. So using Plickers, I simply enter the questions that I want to pose to my students. I usually use Plickers as a way of asking questions as soon as the students come into the class. I really like this particular tool because all the questions can already be entered in prior to the lesson, and you can actually use this through the Google Classroom. So the students have all the codes, so they just come in and we can make a start on the questions. So in this particular example, I have already included all the questions I'd like to ask. So this is my first set of questions. You can add a number of these on, so one after the other, they will just follow through. In this way, thinking about Rosenshine's principles, all the students can engage and answer the questions. As you can see, this is the result of that particular question that I posed to my students. So this is one of the questions that one set of questions that I actually asked my students. And as you can see, I have the results. And this is one of the benefits of using this tool. So I can see exactly where the students have performed well and where they actually need to improve. So you can see here that the students clearly have a good understanding of these particular questions, and I've used my traffic light system to now identify which questions are green, which questions are amber, and which are red. So now I know that next time, maybe within the same lesson, I'm going to now pose the same questions to the class, possibly after we've had a little bit of a discussion. So we're just constantly asking the questions. In this section of my video, I just want to show how I use a really simple tool which is easily accessible in the Google Classroom, which is simply asking a question. So I pose my question to my class, which is explain the purpose of a recce, and then I just posted this out to my students. And in this way, all the students in my classroom can engage with this question, and I can view their responses and reply to them, as I'm going to show you in my next section. Once you've set the question in the classroom, students can then start answering the question as I set it within the scheduled time. So as you can see, I've already got 5 students who've responded to that question, and I can see all of their responses. So thinking about Rosenshine and his principles and the ability to capture what students actually say, which is really important. So this tool actually allows a teacher to capture that information. All the students in the class can respond and see what the actual answers are from other students in the class. And again, this helps other students to develop their understanding of a particular question as well. So in this way, it's very useful. And as you can see here, I've been able to take this one response and ask her for a far more detailed answer, as she needs to show increased understanding of this particular question as it comes up regularly in exams. And as you can see, she has given a far more detailed response. So you can see how this tool is very useful in terms of engagement and capturing student responses. This is a tool I particularly use quite often in my class. I really like quizzes. The students really like quizzes. Hence, that's the motivation behind using this tool quite often. One of the essentially amazing aspects of this tool is that you can ask a range of different types of questions. So thinking about Rosenshine's principles, you can ask many questions, like I have in this particular question that I pose to my students, or you can just ask one or two. You can use it as a poll, so where you just want to ask some of the students if they've understood a particular topic, and just a quick poll which will take just seconds to gauge understanding of a particular topic. And that's a really good way to move forward. Or you could just generate asking questions where the students can then show you what they've understood in a particular topic, and then this could lead to further discussion. The other aspect of this tool that I really like, other than the fact that it allows you to capture the information, it also shows you the outcomes of each of the students in the class. As you can see in this particular example, all the students' answers have been scored, and this is an instant analysis tool which is built in, and I can see the scores straight away. This is brilliant because the students can see their scores, and this allows me as a teacher to review their answers, have a look at where their understanding was not quite accurate, and we can then go back and ask those questions again. I can see that some of the students in the class were particularly struggling down here. That means I can just pose questions to those students and not have to send it out to the rest of the class. It also engages the students in this particular way. It has a dashboard where the students can then monitor their own outcomes, and this can be shared with the students. So you can download this and you can share this with the students so that they are able to keep a note of their answers and their outcomes from each of the quizzes as well. In this, my final example, I'm going to show how I use Rosenshine's principle, where he states that teachers who were the most imaginative in the classroom had the greatest gains. So I've tried to be really imaginative in the way I ask questions with my media students. This is not an easy to set up question system, but it's something I use as a quiz, possibly at the end of the term, where the questions are actually, there's clues within each one of the images in the room. The students then just click on here, where they can then just access this form, and using that, they are able to then answer all the questions based on the clues around the room. And this is a really imaginative way to get the students really excited. So when I gave this to my students, they really, really enjoyed this activity. And when I questioned them after this activity with similar questions, the responses that they gave me clearly showed an improved understanding of the questions. So this really was worth the effort. I hope that my practical examples have given you some suggestions as to how blended learning tools can be used to question and engage all students in the classroom. In this way, we can make sure that as teachers, we are constantly questioning the students, and this will lead to students having a greater understanding of the topics and processes.